All right, let's get started here. Can you guys hear me? Good morning. Awesome. Great to have you guys in here. Welcome to week 1 of DES. Oh, excuse me, DES 105. I'm going to clear my throat here, you guys. You can't hear me? Can anybody else not hear me? Make sure everybody's all right. You might need to log back or log out and log in if you cannot hear me. Okay. A lot of people are coming in here. Great. All right. Well, let's get started here. Hopefully most of you guys can hear me. If not, just let me know. You might need to, obviously you can't hear me, so you won't know this, but log out, log back in. Check your microphone and your volume on your computer as we get started here. It's great to see a lot of people in this class coming in for lecture. And hopefully you guys got a good chance to look around the classroom to get a good idea of what this class is going to be all about. I enjoy teaching this class because it's the fundamentals, but you know, that's kind of what makes you a strong designer is if you get the fundamentals down pat, you know, that's really what matters. It's just like anything else. All right, so let's start with introductions here. My name is April Biss, and I am a graphic designer. I have been working as a graphic designer for about 20 years. Just a little bit about me if you haven't had me before, a lot of newbies in here. I'm from Pittsburgh, PA, but I have not lived just only in Pittsburgh, PA. I've lived in Akron, Ohio for 6 years. And I also lived in Tampa, Florida for 7 years. This is after I graduated with my Bachelor of Science degree in graphic design, just kind of working at ad agencies and publication companies all around. I also have my own freelance business as well. I went back to get my Master's of Arts. What I kind of fell into teaching when I lived in Tampa. I taught for 2 years for a college in Tampa, design classes, and I fell in love with it. And their accreditation changed where I needed my master's in order to teach there after the 2 years. So it kind of pushed me. I always wanted to go back anyway, so it kind of was a motivator to get me to go back to school. So after 10 years of working in the industry, I went back to school and got my master's in graphic design at Savannah College of Art and Design. And I did that all online. So I was an online student, graduate student. And I like to tell a lot of you guys this because, you know, I was in your shoes as being an online student. And it's different than being on ground. And I understand that. So not only do I teach online, but I was a student online as well. So I can relate to a lot of the things that you guys go through. There's definitely pros and cons about both. But if you're here, you know, you'll find out quickly if this is right for you. It takes a lot of responsibility to be an online student because really it's self-driven for the most part. I have about 8+ years teaching in higher education. So I've been teaching at IU for about 7 years and I love it. I like the work balance of teaching and practicing. I just completed a book cover design for an author recently. So I still am, you know, I'm definitely practicing and teaching at the same time. So it's kind of nice to do that as a balance. Okay, I have a 5-year-old daughter. She just turned 5. So she keeps me running for sure. Her name's Amelia. And I have a dog, Santino. He's a little puppy wiener dog. who you'll probably hear barking from time to time. So just kind of be patient with me. He's crated, and I'm right outside the door, so sometimes you can hear the little guy. All right, so enough about me. And by the way, you can call me April. That's fine. Let me know where you're currently living in, the state you're living in, city, state. Go ahead and type in the chat area there. It's kind of nice to see where everybody is from and maybe where you're currently living. I've had one student in the past 7 years at IU who actually lived 40 minutes from me, so it's kind of neat. All right, Kayla, Austin, Minnesota. Nice. Cleveland, Ohio. All right. So Akron's not too far from there. Panama City, Florida. All right. Honesdale, where's that at? What part of PA? Got some Florida people. That's great. Like I said, I lived in Tampa, Florida for 7 years. I miss it every day. Northeast, okay. Very cool. Well, welcome you guys. Just neat to see where everybody is. It looks like most of you guys are, except for one on the East Coast. Oh, from Nebraska. All right. Let me pull down my chat log here. I see everybody's. Oh, the town is Friend. Oh, okay. Gotcha. In Jackson, PA. Note live in. Okay, cool. Okay, very, very cool. A lot of East Coast people here. You're from Maryland. Okay, cool. Yeah. Awesome. I have students from all over. I've had students Alaska, Hawaii. So it's kind of neat to see where everybody is tuning in from here. Great. Don't forget, there's an intro. Let's go ahead and I'll share the classroom here. There is an intro post that you guys can take advantage of. So if you go to your discussions, it's going to look a little different than this is my login. So I'm seeing it as the teacher view. But you'll have an introduce yourself. And I started the conversation in here with my picture, so definitely check that out. Go ahead and read through this and answer this the best you can, all the questions in here. And it's just a nice little introduction icebreaker. And what's kind of neat about the introductions is sometimes you'll realize, maybe you'll find somebody who lives close or has similar background as you, but then also you guys can keep in touch. Okay, yep, I'm in Pittsburgh, PA. Yep, very cool. So what's neat about you guys, and I know I've formed, and what's really important too as an online student is keeping your network open, your former or your fellow classmates, keeping in touch with each other. I think that's the most important part as being an online student, because we don't see each other every day in an actual physical classroom. Hello, North Carolina, cool. So keeping in touch, you just like kind of crazy. Everybody's popping in here. Very cool. Where part North Carolina? True Pitt fan. All right, I like it. That's funny. Yeah, so just kind of keeping in touch with each other is good, because after graduation, it's amazing how just keeping in touch with people that your fellow alumni, future fellow alumni, how many doors may open with people that for opportunities. So definitely take advantage of that. All right, with that being said too, let me go back here. Sorry, guys. You have daily checkpoints every day too, so definitely take advantage of that. What's nice about the daily checkpoints is it acts as a supplement to the course as well. So you are learning more that's related to this course. And then it offers, I have students always emailing me, can you give me extra credit? I cannot give you extra credit. The only extra credit available is through the daily checkpoints. And that's an extra 5 points every day. And it all adds up if you think about every day for 4 weeks of the class. Your Shark academic resources are located here. If you need extra resources, you know, tutors and all that, Student Success Center as well, you can gather that information. Library resources are in there as well. Live session, just kind of, oh, awesome, yeah. You get the extra percentage, that's great, extra points. Most of you guys obviously have logged into this session area because you are here with me right now. So this is just where you'll find our lectures during the week. And it's a little, and I wanted to point this out because it's a little different every week here. So week 1, we will be meeting on Monday. And week 2, we'll be meeting on Tuesday, same time. So if you're Mountain Time, it's 9:30 a.m. If you're Eastern Time like me, it's 11:30. And then week 3, it shifts back to Monday. And the reason being is I actually share custody of my daughter, so our schedule kind of shifts and my work schedule shifts. So it's a good way for me to kind of keep the balance, or else I would have it on the same day. Wednesday, just to let you know, this is just, it's not mandatory, but I will be logged in on Wednesdays, every Wednesday. Eastern Standard Time for me would be 11:30. If you're Mountain Time, 9:30. That's just a 2-hour opening session. So if you guys need extra help, need to like review anything, extra critique, that's when I'll be open. I'll just have it open all the time. You can kind of come in and say, hey, can you look at this? Or can you help me with this? If I feel like it needs to be recorded for any benefit for anybody else in the class, I'll record it and then I'll provide it in announcements. But for the most part, it won't be recorded. And it's not mandatory. It's just for you guys to take advantage of. This is the link for, you know, the live session. And then every week you have recorded sessions. So week 1, you should be watching this first. This is your lecture 1 recording. It's already pre-recorded. And then after I'm done here with lecture 2, this is what I'm doing today, I will post the link here that you can access and watch over again. What's nice about being an online student is you make your weekly schedule how you want it to be. I mean, there's definitely deadlines to uphold, but for the most part, you kind of make it as flexible as you want with your schedule as far as readings and lecture recordings, watching, getting your work also submitted. Any questions about that? Hopefully that's super clear. All right. Course information just talks about, you know, a little bit more about this course in detail, what we will be going over, course objectives, things that you guys will be walking away learning from this class. It also talks about the, you know, it's a course roadmap. And I like this part here because this kind of breaks it down into what we will be covering each week. So, you know, you can also kind of check out expected hours shown here. And then I believe, let's see here, grading. Oh yeah, your grade rubrics is here. I like this just because it breaks it down. You can say, okay, what are we going to go over this week? And it breaks it down. And then it also talks about, you know, how many hours spent doing each, you know, a quiz, discussion, reading, the lectures. You're looking at pre-recording, so I can skip ahead. You mean in here? In the actual lecture area? You looked at the, yeah. So if you already got that done, you're definitely ahead of everybody, so that's good. Most of you guys, this is probably the first lecture that you'll hear, so go back and listen to that first one in the live session area. That's the requirement, though. And you know, I don't know. Like I always tell my students, this kind of the lectures are the meat and potatoes behind what you guys do in class. This is where we're going to go over specifically what you need to do for each project. Yeah. Like we'll do some review stuff, but it's pretty much demos that we'll be kind of covering. Right now, I'm just going over the maintenance type, like housekeeping stuff, so you guys can see what's going on here. Readings and videos, something just to kind of make sure you guys are also checking into. This is where you'll find that first lecture recording as well for each week. But then there's also supplemental resources in here, videos that you can check out that will help you, you know, within your weekly responsibilities. It's relatable to what you guys are working on. There's also optional. So this is all you need to, mandatory. You all need to watch these. They're only about 4 minutes, 5 minutes long, even 3 minutes. So they're not real long. So definitely, you know, while you're making dinner or when you're doing something, you pop one on and listen to it. It should go quickly here. And it's definitely helpful. Lynda.com is also a great resource. This is optional here, just kind of showing you how to set up, or I guess showing you around certain tools, rulers and guides, and how to work with rulers. And each week it's pretty much the same with just different resources, obviously. So definitely check that out. Let's see here, computer support help desk. That's all if you need extra help, either hardware, software issues. That's how you would find out, you know, contact information, career preparation. We should all be thinking about the end result of our schooling, right? So we always have to keep that in mind. My bio is here. Also, my contact information is here if you need to reach out to me in any way. Here's my email address, my phone number, my Skype name, just a little bit about me. So I'm pretty good. I have an iPhone, so I check my messages all the time, and I try to get back to you guys within the 24 hours. So definitely contact me through email. That's the, you know, that's the first point of contact for me that I prefer. But I mean, if you need to contact me through phone, that's fine too. You're not bugging me at all. Definitely reach out to me. Content course list. This is just an easy access to everything that you have going on in your classroom. It's almost like just like a, you know, just an easier listing of your buttons that you have. You have your lynda.com access in there too. Okay, no questions about that. Pretty easy. Just wanted to go over a few things before we get into the other bigger things. All right, so now we get into the deadlines. Now, I want to discuss this with you because this is really important in this class. You guys are going to be working on a cumulative project. Do you guys know what that means? Cumulative project. Yep, adds up. So you guys will be building upon it each week. Good. Yep, thank you. Yeah, so you guys will need, see, this is what's different, and I always like to tell my students too, design is different. Learning design online is different than learning math or science. There's no 1 + 1 = 2. You know, it's not black and white. In design, there's that gray area. There's that process that we need to go through in order to learn and evolve and grow and change. Yep, exactly. So this is why it's super important to get your work in on time, especially in this class, because we are going to be, just like you said, one big project, little parts. You guys are going to be starting this project in week 1 and building upon it during the weeks. So you need that time to get that feedback, to evolve your work, to go through the process of revisions, in order to push your work, in order to learn. Okay, if you wait, and I know things happen in life, trust me, and if they do, contact me as soon as possible so I could be flexible with you. I understand. I have a lot of stressful things going on in life, and I've been an online student, so I know how it goes. But if you wait, say if you kind of wait and submit your work a week past the due date, you will be rushing and stressing, and also your work will you know, suffer from that. You won't have enough time to get the feedback, to make the changes, and then the quality of the work will definitely suffer. So make sure you're getting that in. Week 1 work is due before midnight. That's assignment, assessment 1, before midnight on Mountain Time for possible full credit. Your discussion post is due before midnight. The initial post on Wednesday. You know, I always, when I was an online student, I thought, oh, I'm not going to really learn anything from the discussion. This is kind of a waste of my time. And many of you might think that, and I can understand that. But I think in our case, it's all in what you put into it. And when I was an online student, my thought and viewpoint about the discussions changed immensely by the time I graduated. I actually gained more out of the discussions than I did at some of the projects. And that was only because we all made it what it was. We as students and an instructor made it to the point where we saw different perspectives that we never thought about. So if you're not participating, obviously you're not going to gain as much from it. So we make it what it is. And what's neat about it is we can see what each other's viewpoints are and learn from each other. All right, so make sure you're getting that in. Week 1 learning objectives. This is listed in your week 1. If you click on the week 1 button, these are the same objectives listed, and we just have to review these. This is kind of what you're going to be learning in week 1. A lot of stuff here. Don't feel overwhelmed though. I think we can definitely accomplish this and all succeed here. So don't like freak out. But we're going to define how InDesign is used in the field and describe 5 scenarios of when it would be used. And this is primarily going to be done in discussion. You're going to identify and match 10 basic tools to the description of their use. Identify and match 5 InDesign panels to their function. Create a new document in InDesign and insert text frames and images. Describe the difference between InDesign's rectangle tool and the rectangle frame tool. Does anybody know the difference between those? And it's okay if you don't. We can go over that. Corners. So the rectangle tool, that's okay. No, this is why you're here. So InDesign's rectangle tool is a shape tool. So all it is a shape tool, like a circle, but this is a rectangle. The rectangle frame tool is how you would place images in, like pictures, images, illustrations. And I'll show you how to do that and the differences between the two. Okay, utilize the rectangle, oval, and line tools to create a composition in InDesign. Good, okay, that's fine. Utilize InDesign's character panel to apply changes to font size, kerning, tracking, and leading. Illustrate how to utilize the color palette within InDesign. There you go. Prepare an InDesign document for print output using the package tool, and then show correct image resizing and cropping methods with InDesign. So with that being said, and I see a lot of you guys are new, and that's great to the program. On the scale of 1 to 5, I want you guys to tell me, 1 being the least amount of experience, 5 being the most, feeling very comfortable in InDesign. Where do you fall on that scale? And be honest. 1, 2, 2, 1. Okay, good, great. See, this gives me a good idea, and I kind of had this because this is a beginner class. I know that a lot of you guys, this is the start. Good. I just want to see what your comfort level is. All right. So I will definitely go on, kind of go over some of the basic stuff here for sure. This is a fundamental basic class, so that's good to know. Sometimes I get students in here who have worked in the program for many years and are very comfortable. So you kind of have to, I have to, go from that. At that point, I have to kind of show the fundamentals with a little bit more experienced type of way that I teach. So good to know that. Okay. Did anybody look at the discussion 1 yet? Okay, good. I think this will be an interesting discussion to have. Glance at it. I'm a photographer used to Photoshop system translate. Yep, exactly, Larry. And, Larry, you will notice that a lot of the Adobe programs do parallel a lot of their similarities. They could be different in certain ways, but they do kind of all look very similar in certain actions and certain tools. Yep. Okay, so I'm going to click on week 1. This is kind of the objectives I went over just now. There's a short little video in here, talks about, it's just kind of an inspirational video, so definitely check that out. I'm going to go right into discussion 1. Oh, here's the intro, so definitely provide an intro here. You can even post a picture of you if you're comfortable. You don't have to, of your family, maybe a fur baby. It's always nice to see. Okay, so we're going to be talking about InDesign and how it's the purpose and how to use it in the field. So kind of read through this background. I won't bore you guys with reading over this, but definitely read through this. I'm going to read through the prompt though. This is what you're being asked. Okay, so for this discussion, we will look at InDesign and how it is used in field today. You might try a job website like monster.com. There's a link here you can click on. Consider checking a few others like Indeed, the ARC Career Project, or any job listing resource you know of. Use InDesign as a keyword for your search and take note of the job titles and descriptions that come up. Are any of the listings something you might be interested in? Why or why not? In your post, write about one of the positions you found and list the job duties that require InDesign knowledge as a skill. List ideas of how you will become a Power InDesign user so you can be hired. For example, to become a Power InDesign user, I will learn one InDesign shortcut a day. Discuss why you feel your methods will be successful. For your citation, you might use articles that show examples of how InDesign is being used in the field today. Your initial and reply post should develop a group understanding of this topic. You can challenge each other, build on each other, always be respectful, but discuss this and figure it out together. Don't forget to also, when you post this, you are hitting upon the requirements for your reply and your initial post. So you have to read through this, make sure you have a citation, a reference, follow up. The words are the amount given here, just so that we're substantially posting using our critical thinking skills in an appropriate way. This is all kind of part of the learning experience. All right, so monster.com. I'm sure you guys probably have checked this out, right? Go to find jobs here. You can do the advanced search. And we can search your job title. So, in your job title, InDesign maybe would be one of the keywords. And it's up to you. If you want to post your state, your city and your state, maybe do that so that, it's a little bit more direct to you. And then what you're going to do is just kind of look through anything that kind of pops out that may be interesting to you. Here's program coordinator. I don't see anything. Let's see here. Graphic designer. Here's Rue 21. Rue 21 is a clothing fashion type of an apparel brand company. And so I can read through this, something that interests me here. Looking for a graphic designer, work closely with a senior designer. So I scroll all the way down here after reading all this. And in here, it says expertise in InDesign. So that's important, right? So that's the keyword I'm looking for. So go ahead and look those up. And what's neat is you can kind of see what's out there. You can even click on like the beginning designer, you don't have to click on a really overly experienced position if it's something that like a freelance position. But definitely in your post, write about one of the positions you found and list the job duties that require InDesign. And then also list the ideas of how you will become very experienced in InDesign. What are the ideas that you can try and do? Okay. What other job sites are out there that you guys look at? I know there's like Glassdoor. Are there any ones that you can suggest in the chat area for everybody to, take advantage of? There's Indeed. Good. ZipRecruiter, good. Perfect. So we got Indeed, ZipRecruiter, USA Jobs, good. Glassdoor is another one, Monster. What about Facebook? Facebook has job searches too, right? Facebook, LinkedIn, Behance. So I don't know. I don't think Behance has one. LinkedIn does. So, there's some outlets that you might want to check out that aren't listed here, but does anybody have any questions about that? about any of that, what's asked for your discussion. So it's a good way to kind of get an idea of what positions are out there and, you know, kind of think about some strategies of how you will become more experienced in design. Yeah, I'm not sure if anybody still uses Career Builder. I used that way back in the day too. It's a good question. Okay, that one popped up. Yeah, that's another way to just kind of do just a regular Google search for jobs. Good. Always, you know what I think a lot of the time, you guys, in order to succeed even online as a student, is you have to kind of do. Sometimes you have to problem solve. Craigslist, good. Problem solving is key, and a lot of, you know, there's a lot of people that don't, you know, once they get hit a wall, a problem, they can't go forward. So as a student and as a designer, I come up, even when I'm working, I come up with problems all the time and I have to problem solve through them. I mean, I'm here for you guys for sure. And we do have resources here, great resources to help you guys out. But at some point too, there could be when it's, you know, you don't have that time or the availability, do you need to kind of walk yourself through the problem solving part of it. So, okay. So no questions, everybody's good with that? All right. Let's get into the nitty gritty stuff, right? We're all ready to start with the assignment 1. I think you guys will really enjoy this. We'll go over the assignment, and then what I'll do is I'll kind of walk through how to navigate InDesign, kind of talk about some of the fundamental tools and panels so you guys are a little bit more comfortable with InDesign, hopefully. All right, so I'm going to go into assignment 1, and we'll read through this here. Zoom in so we get a little bit bigger. So these are basically the learning objectives that are covered for this particular assignment, what you should be walking away from. This assignment is worth 120 points. It talks about how InDesign, the purpose of InDesign and what it does in regards to, you know, its purpose in design. InDesign is a huge layout program for designers that we primarily use for every final design. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to do all of the designs in InDesign, but it is a good habit to say if you're creating a cover for a magazine, you could do certain elements in Photoshop with an image, do certain elements in Illustrator for, say, a banner or effect of a logo. But primarily, you're going to be importing all of that into InDesign for the final layout. InDesign is great for type layout and also multiple page layouts. You can also do a one-page ad in InDesign. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use InDesign for a multiple page document. Okay, so go ahead and read through this background. I'm going to go up to the prompt or down to the prompt and read through your specs. So for this assignment, you're going to create some cover designs for a menu. For the week 2 assignment, you will do the rest of the menu design. So you're just primarily doing the cover for this, maintaining the styles introduced in your cover. In the field of graphic arts, we frequently give the client more than one option to choose from. Therefore, this week, you will be designing 2 versions of the same menu cover. You're going to review the 3 menu options below, so to pick from the menu options. Choose only one of the 3 menu options below, and then you're going to create a new InDesign document with the following specs. So the page size has to be 8.5 by 11 inches, so 8.5 wide by 11 inches tall. You're going to have 2 pages because you're going to have 2 different covers. Your margins are going to be set at 0.375, and I'll show you how to do all this, inches. Your bleed is 1.25. Does anybody know what bleed means in the world of design? Okay, so a bleed is, and I'll show you when I open up InDesign, I will show you how to create the bleed. But what it is it is where the trim line is. So say if the cover of the menu is going to be trimmed at 8.5 by 11 by the printer, anything on that trim line that goes over, so if it's going to be color, say, you know, a background color is going to go right to the edge, you're just going to pull it, bleed it out, you know, 1/4 of an inch, so that if the printer prints it and it shifts, the paper shifts on the press, which usually does happen, you won't get a weird white gap. You know, you're just ensuring that that gets covered. Okay, so I'll show you how to set that up. All right, so you're going to set the bleed off. Turn off facing pages, and I'll kind of talk about that too, what that means. It says here, note the initial default setting for InDesign is in picas or P. Make sure that you have changed your preferences to be inches before you create your new document. I'll show you how to do that. Using the logo and tagline from your chosen restaurant, create a menu cover layout. You may add color or patterned backgrounds, utilize the photos provided, plus add lines or shapes to your design. It could be as simple or as complex as you think the restaurant warrants. Okay, so go to page 2. You're going to create a second version of your cover. Consider trying a different background or experiment with different opacities, color, and type combinations. Remember, whenever you start here, you will carry to the other side for week 2's assignment. So whatever design that you decide to go with, that's the design that you're going to stick with for the inside. And we'll be kind of getting into that in week 2. If you copy the layout from the example, so let's say you do this exactly how you see each example down here, I will dock you creative score on the rubrics, because what we really want you to do is look at the examples, be inspired by them, but don't emulate them. You know, come up with your own concept, okay? So, and then you're going to package, when you're done and save it, you're going to package the file when you are finished, and I'll show you how to do that. Be sure to include all images, fonts, and high-res PDF, and that's what packaging is, so I'll show you how to do that. Zip the packaged folder and name it when you're done, and then this is the name. You will have your last name, your first and last name here. Actually, it says your last name. Turn in the zip file. That's just the condensed file. If you don't zip your file, say if you just send me your InDesign file, which is your native file, I won't be able to see certain things. Like I'll open it on my computer and it's going to try to link the fonts that you used. Maybe I don't have them on my computer, so it's going to show them as not syncing up. Okay, so that's why zipping it is really important, because it'll pull all the fonts that you use, the images, so nothing's missing, it's all together. All right, so you're going to choose one of the following restaurants for the week's project. Choice number 1 is Maxwell's Fine Steaks and Seafood. Maxwell has graced downtown Atlanta for 80 years. Since they are known worldwide for their overall customer experience, there is a 6-month waiting list for reservations. All staff is in tuxedos and crisp white linens, grace the candle-lit tables. Their entrees range from $52 to $82, with all side dishes served a la carte. This truly exemplifies what a fine dining experience means. So this is just an example to show you kind of the direction that you could go. I'm hoping to elevate this a little bit more than the example here if you decide to do that. So it's more an affluent type of a brand. The next one, okay, and then here's if you're doing Maxwell's, what's included here in this link is the logo that you need to use. So you're not redesigning the logo, it's given to you. Front page copy, so you'll open that up and you can copy and paste that in. Menu copy, that you won't need until week 2, but that's in there. And 4 photos to choose from. So anything, you know, you want to take a look at that, you can definitely download the assets there. Number 2 choice is the Starlight Bistro. Something great by the sea is their tagline. Best friends Margot and Penny opened Starlight Bistro after not finding what they really wanted in a restaurant: healthy food. Starlight Bistro is a very small restaurant decorated with holiday lights, star ornaments, and colorful prints. It is eclectic in food, entertainment, and the personalities on both sides of the counter. Shoes are optional as they are situated right on the beach. For under $20, you can get a healthy meal with a fabulous view. There, the example above is what you can kind of be inspired by. Their assets include the logo, front page copy, menu copy, again, 3 photos, and they're provided in this hyperlink. Just kind of note that these words here right next to the name is the tagline that you definitely can include. So something great by the sea is Starlight Bistro is their tagline. And then final choice number 3 is Walk and Roll, Chinese and Sushi Restaurant. The Walk and Roll came about when restaurant owners Liu and Wen decided to stop competing for Orlando's best in Asian cuisine and instead joined forces and created a unique Orlando dining experience. Families from around the world feel comfortable in the simple, contemporary black and white red decor. Prices range from $8.95 to $15.95 for the plate that is certain to yield more than one meal. And then again, you see their example here. Be inspired by their assets include the logo, front page, menu copy, 3 photos, and here's where you can click to access that. Any questions about any of the specs here? And like I said, I'll walk you through creating. I'll do a demo of one of these before we get started here. No questions? Okay. Before we even get into all the nitty-gritty stuff, do some research. Research other menu designs online to get a good idea of how you would align your design elements based on the client and appropriateness of the brand. So let's say you're going to do the very expensive high-class Maxwell steak and seafood. You might want to look up steak and seafood. Let's see if I can find something here. Restaurant menu. You know, you could even put in other keywords here. I'm just doing it very quickly. Let me see if I can find it here. I'll just put affluent menu here. I guess I should have probably checked this out before I even went in here. Let's see, steak and seafood menu cover. I'm just doing a quick search here, and it looks like I'm not coming up with some good examples, but let's see. Oh, here's one. Some of these you're gonna have to weed through. This is a good example here of a menu cover, very simple and elegant. You know, there are ones that are not as great, so you kind of have to weed through some of these. But, you know, think affluent. The more, you know, affluent means kind of you're designing for a higher income-based target audience, and the food's obviously more pricey. So the menus typically for something like that, let's type of menu cover here, are, you know, a little bit more simple, okay? So they're understated almost, okay? So they're, you know, colors are subdued. In this case, they kind of have that black and white look, but I mean, you don't have to go with that. But they're, you know, pretty subdued overall. If it's for, you know, say a restaurant that's a little bit more casual, it's gonna look, obviously, you know, the colors are gonna look brighter, it's gonna look more casual looking, you know, the fonts change to look more casual looking than more classic looking. So there's definitely a different look, different color, different feel about this one. The Chinese restaurant menu. This one's a little higher class than some of the you know, regular ones that you would go in and look at. So I would say look for a little bit more of a upscale one that, you know, is a little bit different than what you normally would see in a, you know, I guess, fast food type of a Chinese restaurant. Okay, so research, research, research. Let me type something in here. Hold on one second. You want to do research so that you're inspired by what works. You want your menu to look updated and new, okay? So even when you do research, you will find examples that don't work too. So you kind of, like I said, follow what you think looks on point. Pinterest is a great resource to go in and take a look at different inspirational images too if you're not doing a Google image search. And even going out, if you have a restaurant near you, just taking a look at their menus while you're out is a great way to do some research. Now, FYI everybody, this is all part of the design process. So when you start any type of project as a graphic designer, this is part of the design process that you need to go through in order to come up with more meaningful and effective designs. Research is key. So you're going to gather your information, which is what you're given just now that I just went over. You're going to do research. That's part of your process. You're going to, you know, search your competitors, research your target audience. Just research, research. The next step is brainstorming. You could do some sketches, right? Some thumbnails. This is only for you. You don't have to show these. Go from pencil to paper. You know, just sketch out some ideas, what you decide, you know, what elements that you're going to decide on. Where you're going to position certain key areas, you know, images, thinking about all the design fundamentals. That's part of the process. So gathering information, research, brainstorming, and then going to the computer to design your roughs is the next part. Yep. Web page layout. Yep. And it's just like with design. Yep. A lot of people think, oh, design's just, you know, fun, creative, and we have no rules. That's definitely way far from the truth. We have fundamentals. We have principles of design we need to follow. And then we also have a design process. If you're not going through your process steps, you can design something very aesthetically beautiful. Say you can create a really amazing looking logo, for instance, but if you don't go through your design process steps, you could be just designing something that looks good, but may not be timeless. So it may be very trendy and fail within a year or so. It may not have very much thought to it, so it might not be very meaningful to the brand. So, but yeah, definitely, you know, layout is super important and thinking about those elements and design principles. So you're not only are you guys going to be learning a new program, getting started with that, but you also need to keep in mind all the other strategies of alignment, all the principles of design, alignment, and all that good stuff. What does progress look like? What's that mean? I don't know if I know exactly what you're asking there. Progress, what does it look like? I guess if you are, you know, hitting upon certain key components of your project and getting good feedback, that's progress, right? Yep, and sometimes failing. Sometimes you need to fail to learn how to go forward and create something successful. Yeah. So especially in like user experience design, failing is a part of the process. This is a little different. I mean, obviously it could be implemented too. All right, we just went over the details of your project. I'm going to give you a quick 5-minute break so we can kind of just, you know, take that break, kind of come back, re-meet, and then I'm going to start the demo. That way we have a clear mind and we're ready to go. Does that sound good? Cool. Cool. All right, I'll meet you guys back here in about 5 minutes. Okay, can you guys hear me? All right, welcome back. All right, let's get started here. Let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully I won't go super fast, but if I do, let me know. Awesome. Okay, so what I would highly recommend you do is go to your project details, read through all of this over again, decide which one you feel like you're most excited about to do as far as the client is concerned. Maybe you have experience eating at eating at one of these establishments more than the others. I don't know why I can't talk today, sorry. So, you feel more comfortable about designing for that one. You could push yourself too, like say, you're not too sure about one of the restaurants that you've never eaten there before and maybe not so much, but you want to try to push yourself, that's fine too. But I think the more interested that you are in one of them, the better off you'll be in terms of creating something that's, effective. Okay, so definitely choose one. You can look at all of the design assets in here just to check out what's in each of these folders first before going forward too. Because some of them have more copy than others. I think the Chinese and sushi restaurant has a lot more copy involved on the menu, inside the menu. But don't let that scare you either. Just kind of note that that's kind of the differences too. All right, so decide on which one you want. And then what I would suggest, do you guys ever do a screenshot before? You know what that means? Okay, so if you're on a Mac, a screenshot, one that you can customize, is Command-Shift-4, and you hold down Command-Shift-4, and you have these anchor points, good. So you can kind of take a picture of a certain part on your screen. I'm going to take a picture of just the spec prompts here, just so I can have that on my desktop. I just took a picture of just that area here of the specs. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place that into InDesign when I'm ready to design. That way I'm not flipping back and forth to the assignment details. It's just kind of a nice, easy way. Okay, so I just took a picture of that. Now for this, demo, I have to choose one. Just there you go. Yep, I have to choose one just to show you guys. And I actually am going to pick number 2 as well, which is the Starlight. But don't make that sway you to which one you decide. Now, clicking on the bistro assets should be similar in all of each of your choices here. Go ahead and click on that. You live in low country. Once you do, it should come up in your downloads folder and unzip. Now I'm going to share with you what's in that folder. So I just downloaded it. Here's the folder here, and I'm going to go ahead and click and drag that over to my desktop. And I'm just going to share my desktop so you guys can see what's on my desktop here. Okay, so this folder here is what all those assets are in there. So I have, let me make this bigger here. So I have this image here of this frittata. I have a salad image, smoothies. Here's the logo in Illustrator. AI.ai means it's an Illustrator file. So typically, designers always design logos in Illustrator because it's a vector-based program. So you can, make it billboard size, and it's still not going to be pixelated. It'll be clear as day. Here are the examples that you can see closer that were in your specs. And then these are the text files. So you guys won't need the menu text right away. You'll need this next week. But the text that you'll need for this week is the cover text, and it's a Word file. Okay? Now, with that being said, I'm going to kind of do the demo based on this Starlight. Okay, bistro, something great by the sea. Now, I'm going to go ahead and open up InDesign. I don't know, let me stop sharing. I'm going to share my desktop so you can see every single step that I do. Okay, so I'm going to go to InDesign, and I'm going to go up to where it says File, and I'm going to say File, New Document. And you're going to have recent items. You might not have everything that I have on here, but I can see that there's an 8.5 by 11 choice. So I'm going to click on that. Just make sure you're looking over here on the right-hand side, which is your preset details. This is good, you know, and you can always type in here 8.5 by 11. This is your width and your height of your page. And just make sure it's in inches and not picas. So if it is, change it to inches here. You want the orientation to be portrait. You want this to be 2 pages, not 8, because we're going to do 2 cover pages. You want to uncheck facing pages. Facing pages is a way to see pages and how they're going to be printed. Say for a magazine, you'll see the cover page on the upper right, and then you can see the 2 pages. The next 2 pages are like double page spreads. We don't want that, so we're going to uncheck that. We want to just have a vertical alignment of your pages. So uncheck facing pages. Start with page 1 is fine. Go ahead and down to margins. And your specs here, I'm going to go back to the specs. So 8.5 by 11, 2 pages. Your margins are 0.375. So where it says margins, you're going to click in here and put 0.375. And when you type in there on the very top margin, go ahead and click this little link. And when you do that, it's going to make all of your margins, top, bottom, left, right, all the same. Okay. Now your bleed is specified as 0.125, so 1/8. That's already set in there, so I don't even have to change that. If you did have to change it, just do exactly what I just did here. Now a slug, you guys don't have to worry about that. That's just custom marks for job information for the printer. You don't have to worry, just keep that at 0. You can hit preview to see what it's going to look like before, or I'm just going to click create just to see what it looks like now. Okay, does anybody have any questions about what I just did? Pretty easy. If not, let me know. And you can always kind of refer back to the recording too if you need to kind of go slower. Okay. So here's my document. I'm going to zoom out here. And how you zoom out is there's different ways, 2 different ways to do things. There's a shortcut way, and then there's a long way. If you do a command and the negative sign on your computer, like right next to the positive, if you hold down command, it'll zoom out. That's the shortcut. Or you can go ahead and this is a toolbar here. And your toolbar, you can either set, completely up to you. You can have it 2 panels showing, so it's side by side. If I click on the upper right hand corner with a little preset, it can set it vertically. If I hit it again, it can set it horizontally. So there's, it's up to you and your preference. Okay. But anyway, there's a magnifying zoom tool in here, and you can also zoom in this way too. If you wanted, see how the little plus sign, if you wanted that to zoom out, just hold down the Alt Option key and it'll zoom out. Alt Option zooms out, and you just click right on top of it when you want to make that zoom or zoom out. Okay. The next thing I want to show you is way up here, and I'm going to have to move my chat log up here. See where it says Essentials up here on the very top right hand corner? Make sure that that says Essentials. You can even reset it. And what this is it just, see all these little panels? It'll reset your panels. So if you have, like, for instance, these little panels can be all over the place like this. And these are just panels to do certain things in this program. If you wanted to reset that, just go up to that top selection again and just say Reset Essentials. And it's going to organize it all together again for you. And it's going to give you the essentials for a layout, designing a layout. But it's not necessarily all the things that you need. It's just kind of giving the essentials. I guess that's why it's called Essentials. You can create a new workspace. This is all about your workspace and what panels that you see on here. So you can create a new workspace. You can say New Workspace once you're, like, say if you go up to Window, the new menu bar, and you want maybe the Align panel to show. And you can always either have it shown here, or you can even put it right into your tab window here. So you can tab through your options. Let me pull this out so you can actually see certain things here. And let's say I wanted to save this. So all the time when I close out and come back in, these panel boxes will always be here. All I need to say is new workspace. And I'm going to just name this DES105. Click OK. And if I were, let me save this while I'm at it here. File, save as. So you're going to want to save it to DES105 underscore assignment 1 underscore, and you could do your last name, it's fine. And I'm just going to save it as an InDesign document, so this is exactly what you need to see. I'm going to save it to the desktop for now. But if I were to close out of this completely, so file close or Command W, and I went to go open it again, oh, actually quit out of here. Let me quit out of here. See how all my panels are there? If I go back into InDesign, all my panels stay the same. See how my panels stay the same? They're all in the same position, and it kind of saves it. Let me open up my document again. Okay, so that's, and you can reset it or create a new workspace or whatever you want to do. You want to go back to essentials is fine. But that's your workspace. And that's really your preferences. So you don't have to set it the way that I did. Okay, the next thing is, let's go back to your toolbar. This is your selection tool, okay? This is the black arrow selection tool. So if I were to want to move anything, let's say I go down to my type tool and I have copy here. Of course, drag out copy. And I make this, let me bring my character. Character is where you'll change all of your assets. Go to your character panel. If you can't find your character panel, just go up to Window, go to Types and Tables, and Character should be found under there. It's like right here. This is where I can make my type bigger and smaller. I can change my typeface here too. Right here, it's based on what's on my computer. I can change the leading, which is the line in between the spaces. Right now I don't have. The leading would be the space in between these two lines, so the leading is here. I can adjust that here. I can adjust kerning, which is the line tracking, which is the line or space in between my letters. And there's all kinds of other stuff, but we're going to kind of just focus on that. You can actually go up on the upper right-hand corner of this panel and change it to all caps if you want to do all caps, small caps. And there's underline, all that good stuff. There we go back. Now Command Z is an undo, which is kind of nice. Or you can go up to Edit and undo up here. There's always different ways you can do this. Okay, so anyway, the selection tool allows you to select certain elements like type boxes, and you can move them around. You also have shape tools in here. And anytime you see like a little arrow, like a little triangle at the very bottom, that just means that there's more tools underneath. So you just hold, click that drag, hold, click that hold as you're clicking on it, selection, and you'll see other shapes in there that you can build off of, other tools. So let's just hold the Shift key down and we'll make this shape a color. Now I don't see my color panel up here, so I'm going to go up to Window and I'm going to choose Color. And I'm going to choose, I can either choose color or swatches. Color, I can actually use color picker, so I can pick a color in here. Or I can go to swatches, which is kind of a nice thing to have too. And these bring up swatches that I can always save in here. Say if I like this color because I picked it on my color picker, all I need to do is click and drag this color right into here. Okay, and that adds it to my swatches. But this move tool allows me to move my shapes and my text around on my page. It also allows me to make it bigger, certain things bigger. If I hold the Shift key down, it does it proportionately. So that's basically what that is. You can actually do it, distort it too. You can also select it and delete it if you hit delete on your keyboard. Get rid of it. Now the white arrow is a little different. Let me reset my essentials here. The white arrow is your direct selection tool. So your selection tool selects your elements to move, delete, edit, certain edits. Direct selection tool is a little different than your selection tool because what it does, and let me draw out a square here. I'm just clicking and dragging with that tool. Go back to your, so selection tool allows you to move it, delete it. You can even, you know, reshape it, but, you know, based on the bounding boxes. But the direct selection tool allows you to do a little bit more with your vector points. So if I select my white arrow, I can select the corners of this and actually change just a corner of it instead of the whole thing. Okay, so I have to actually click right on that vector point is what they're called, and I can play around with that. I can also click and move this around too. It just allows me a little bit more, you know, flexibility. Now this is very helpful to say with type. Let me draw out my type box here. This is a font. Right now it's Minion Pro. But let's say I wanted to do something more with this. Say it's like a headline or something. Right now it's a font. It's a typeface. I know this because if I go up to my type character box, it's telling me it's Minion Pro. But let's say I want to make this an actual shape instead of a font. So I can edit it. I will select it. I'll go up to type and I'll say create outlines. So it takes it from a font to a shape. So now it's no longer a font. You can't edit it with the type tool or anything. It becomes shape. So when I zoom in on this, look what happens. I take my direct selection tool. You can see it's made up of these little vector points. Oops, sorry. Go back here. Zoomed in a little bit too much. So this is neat if you want to like play around with, you know, playing around with any of the parts of the letters. Like say if I wanted to just delete this O part in here, I could hold the shift key down, select all 4 parts and hit delete. You can also play around with certain letter for parts of the letter. And what it does is it just allows you to kind of make additional changes to certain things. A little bit more specific changes. Okay, so that's direct selection tool. You can even, what's nice about, so there's a pen tool, and this is in Illustrator. If you ever worked with the pen tool in Illustrator, it's definitely a challenging tool because you just have to get used to it. But if you click and, you know, hold that click is when you're creating these lines, these vector lines. You can take your direct selection tool after creating these lines and you can edit it this way too. Okay, so that's the direct selection tool. And I'm just going to show you tools that you need to kind of worry about. I'm not going to go into detail with some of these that, you know, there's graph tools. There's so many different tools that are involved in here that you won't even touch right now. I'm just going to show you the fundamentals, okay? So I'm going to skip all the way down here to the type tool. The type tool is really cool because, you know, obviously you're going to type. You can type in your paragraphs. You can paste stuff in. If you just wanted to do placeholder text, so like say you don't have the copy yet, but you know you want body copy here, you're going to draw out your box, so click and drag that box out. And you're going to go up to type. And you're going to say fill with placeholder text. And this is just going to give you, you know, almost like Greek text so that you can say, hey, to the client, this is what your text will look like. If you take, after creating that, if you take your selection tool, you can actually just pull in this box, make it bigger, kind of alter the bounding box to make your columns or whatever you want to do with your copy. Taking the type tool and selecting all, if you double click or do a select all, which is Command A on your keyboard, you can alter the font point size like I was showing you. So I just took it down to 11 points. You can change the line spacing in between the lines, so kerning. And typically with body copy, especially for your menu, which you'll be doing on the inside, you want a 20% difference. So A typical body copy that's good, say for a menu or a brochure, is a 10-point type and 14-point leading. That's a good ratio. And that's readability wise. You don't want it too squished in. Like if this was really squished in like this, it's going to be harder to read. The line spacing with bigger font, that's going to be harder to read. Verse, and readability is huge. You want it to be readable. 10-point and 14-point leading. You'll see the difference here. See the difference there? Just easier to read. There's still a lot, you know, it's a nice spaced out balance of space with the typeface chosen and point size. Okay. Now, that's the type tool. That's all you have to worry about that. You don't even have to worry about type on a path. Just type tool is fine. Line tool is basically what it is. If you hold the shift key down and you click and drag it out, it's going to give you a line. Now you have to add it with color. Now, this is something that you need to understand too. Let me see if you are familiar with this. In your toolbar, see how my line's selected here? Way at the very bottom here, you have these two boxes, all right? The first one, it says it's like a no slash. This is your fill. Let me draw a box so you can actually see this a little bit better. So if I were to fill this square, I want this fill to be a color. So I'm going to select a color. See how it's filled now? If I wanted it just to be an outline, I'm going to see this little arrow. It's like curved. I'm going to hit that arrow, and it's going to take the fill to the stroke. It's going to flip it. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I can never have a fill and a stroke together. I can. So let me fill it with black, and I'm selecting whatever's on top is what you're going to be active with selecting, okay? So for instance, if this was on top, and you can select this first too, if you want to change this, you can change that as well. Now I'm going to go up to my window and I'm going to choose stroke. This is all the panel boxes that you can play around with if you don't see it on your screen here. And stroke is nice because stroke is good for any type of outline or line. This, you know, for instance, is the outline of my square. Right now it's at 1 point. I'm going to increase this so you can see it. Now it's getting bigger. That's your stroke line, so you get bigger and smaller. Same thing with the line, which I just created here. Now, because it's a line and not a shape, it won't show a fill, but it will show a stroke. This is the stroke color. See how it's blue? And I can make this bigger or thicker or thinner. And I can give it a rounded cap too, if I wanted more of like a rounded end rather than like a sharp end. Sorry if you can hear my dog. You can even click if you want to go even further and do some kind of really cool effects with dots. This kind of, you know, changes the style. You can even do it here. You know, kind of play around with that. Different styling of type. Okay. So that is the line tool. And you can do vertical, horizontal. You can do diagonal lines. And then if you ever want to alter the line position, you can take your direct selection tool and do that. If you want to move it around on your page, you can take the selection tool and move it around. Anybody have any questions about that? I know I'm going a little fast. Apologize. I'm trying to get through this so I can get the demo done here. Okay. The next thing is, well, you saw the pen tool. And the pen tool is and I'll show you something really cool that you can do with this. It's a pen tool. You could create shapes and fill it if you have it, you know, closed. So pen tools, that's a cool thing. I'm going to show you something cool with that in a second here. Pencil tool is what it is. You know, it's a pencil tool. So it's a more of a freehand tool that you can kind of draw like a pencil. And you can change the look of this too. You know, you can make the lines thicker, play around with, you know, style and all that good stuff. It's the pencil tool. All right, this is where I asked you earlier the difference between a rectangle tool and the rectangle frame tool. See how they are in this toolbox? The rectangle tool looks like a filled rectangle. And it even looks like it when you draw it out. There's nothing there, it's just, you know, a square. And this is just to create shapes. There's shapes under here that you can do, the ellipse, the polygon, to kind of get you started. And that's just a shape tool. The rectangle frame tool is going to look like a rectangle, when you draw it out, but it's going to have this X here. And what this X is telling you is, hey, this is not necessarily a shape tool, but this is where you can actually place images in here. So this is how you would place an image. So you would draw out your square, and you will go up to File, Place, File, Place, or Command D, and you're going to find the image. And I'm going to go into my Starlight Bistro here and submit or place my frittata. And it places the image right into the square that I made. The only bad thing is, if the image is bigger than my box that I created, it's going to not show the whole thing. So how do we fit it in the square if we wanted it to be the same kind of ratio and see more of the picture? With this selected, now I'm going to go up to Object on your menu bar and choose Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionately. And that's going to fit it within this frame. Okay? Now, that's the difference between the rectangle and the rectangle frame tool. There's also a rounded ellipse rectangle frame tool. So let's say if you want to do an oval, or I'm going to do a perfect circle here. Hold down the Shift key if you want a perfect circle. Do a Command D or File, Place. You can place in another image in here. Now I have to go Object, Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionately. And there you go. Any questions about that? So that's how you would place images into an area that you want to create a shape, or, there's always, you can, file, place images in here just, without doing that. So let's do a File, Place in general, okay? And it's going to show you like a little icon. So wherever you click, if you say you want this whole left side from margin, top margin to bottom margin, click and drag, it's going to place it in that way. So that's another way you can place it in. But if you wanted a specific shape, that's how you would do that. Okay. I wanted to show you something really neat with the pen tool that you can also play around with if you're really good with the pen tool. Pen tool takes a little practice, so don't feel frustrated if you can't get it right away. But you definitely can play around with it. So the pen tool, let's say I want to do a cover and I just want like a curved image type of a look. So, and by the way, I forgot to tell you this too. On your layout, see where this purple guide is? That's your margin guide, by the way. That's not going to print. This is just telling you as a designer, we're going to keep a 1/2 inch margin guide on all sides so that we can align copy and imagery so that there's a nice balance. So we're going to align it. The trim edge is where that gray meets the white part right here. That's the trim. That's where it will be printed and then trimmed right here. The bleed is where it's red. And this is where if you had, let's say you had a background color of black and it's going to the trim edge and you want it to not have a weird white gap if it's like shifted on the press. You're going to want to pull it out to the bleed. And that way, if the printer, if the paper shifts on the press, left or right just a little bit, it won't have like a weird white gap right here. And that's what a bleed is. Biggest difference with the pencil tool is more freehand. So when you use it, you'll be able to notice it. It's more freehand for the form of it, and it's easier to use in terms of pencil or the pen tool is, and you can get curves with this too. If you click and hold the click down and pull out your what these are called are your brisure curves. These are anchor point curves. You can get curves on this too. So it's not just a straight line that you can do with the pen tool. But the pen tool is a tool that is good to use for precision type work, more so than a pencil tool. Pencil tool is a little harder to get real precise like lines. Okay, Okay, so the pen tool, I wanted to show you something real quick. Let's say you're real good at the pen tool and you draw out a shape here, and I'm just kind of clicking on the outside of my bleeds. I'm going to make this curved shape right here. I'm going to end this as like a, almost like a little swash element on my cover. So let's say, let me pull this in. See, I'm going to edit this line here. I'm going to pull this in a little bit more so it goes up at an angle. I'm going to pull this down a little bit more. Okay, so now I can actually select this shape that I just closed, and I can do a Command D and place any type of image in here. Look how cool that is. So you don't have to necessarily use your frame tools. You can use your pencil tool, and I would take this stroke off because you don't really need it. Isn't that neat? Take my stroke off here. If I select my stroke and hit none, it's going to take my stroke off, or should take my stroke off. It's not doing it. The colors here. There we go. Very cool. Any questions about that? And I can alter this line. You know, if I wanted to say, fix this line, take your direct selection tool, select that anchor point or whatever anchor point you're trying to change, and you can move it around. You know, you're not affecting the image, you're just affecting the shape that the image is in. Okay, that's pretty cool. All right, you have your eyedropper tool, and that's nice because sometimes when we place images in here, we want to keep, say, a similar color to that. Can you move the image around the box? Yes, that's a good question. So if you were to select this with your selection tool, which is your black arrow tool in your toolbox, if you double click on it, so if I clicked on it one time, you'll see a blue bounding box. That just means I can move this around. But if I double click on it with my selection tool, it's going to turn red. You'll see a red bounding box. When it turns red, you'll have this little hand icon up here. And this is where you can move the image around in here, depending upon how big it is. So say if you want to see more of the plate or more of the, you know, different area of the food, you can, you know, click and drag in here to move it around. But the only way that you can do this, if you double click on the inside and you'll see this is the size of the image, is where the red box edges are showing. Okay, so that's kind of advanced for you guys, so that's good that you're seeing this because I think that you guys can definitely play around with this for your cover. If you wanted to delete this altogether, select it, hit delete on your keyboard. Okay, another thing that I wanted to show you, let me place, I can never seem to adjust the anchor I have, like when I exit one handle and leave the other as is. Okay, so let me go back. Let me go back to this. Okay. Well, I think the key to that is you want to make sure you're selecting, you're talking about the vector point or this handle here. Yeah, like I said, the pen tool is a little, it's a little harder to learn, but it's definitely more advanced. But I definitely would, once you get the hang of it, you're good. You know, you'll love it. If you want an extra, see how this has only one handle on it? It should have, you know, because I only pulled out one handle. If you wanted to add, this is advanced knowledge. So if you guys want to know this for advanced knowledge. Go to your pen tool, click and drag down and choose Convert Direction Tool. And this is where you can actually create the other handle on the other side if you want to. But you'll need to click right on top of that vector point, drag and pull out. That creates the two handles. If you don't want the two handles, because I don't really need it on this side, just go ahead and pull this handle in and let go, and you just have this one handle curve. a little different. Okay, the next thing I want to show you is, let me place in another image here. I'm just going to file place this in, and I'm going to draw a little box so I can place it in perfectly. Okay, is the scale tool, which is right under your scissors tool. So the scale tool is neat. So if you don't want to, let's say, resize this by, going up to object, fitting, fill frame proportionately to that bounding box, you can select the image or whatever element that you are trying to scale, and double click on the scale tool, and this will bring up a preset box that you can change the X and the Y height. Now you want this to be not distorted, so you want this link to be selected, okay? So let's say I want it to be bigger. I'm gonna go 150 by 150, and it's gonna scale it larger. Same thing with smaller. If you double click and you go smaller, let's say 40%, it's gonna make it smaller. Okay, so that's another tool. Just a little tip, if you hold the space bar on your keyboard and you click and drag, this is ways that you can navigate your layout very easily. It's kind of like the hand tool here, but in a shortcut way. So let's say if I'm zoomed into my work here, if I hold down the shift key and drag this little hand tool around, it's just a nice way to navigate my layout without zooming out and zooming in all the time. Does anybody have any questions with what I went over so far? Okay, let's get started with the cover then. I have two covers that I need to design, and I have my presets, my assets that I already kind of downloaded. So let's take a look at that again. Now you don't necessarily have to use these images. You can use ones that you find online too. Pixabay.com is a great resource. Let's go on here. It's free, copyright free. Oops, if I could spell this right. Pixabay.com. Copyright free high-res images that you can look up. Let me, I'll type in the link here for you guys. There you go. So just type in a keyword and look through these images, see if there's anything that you kind of speaks to you for your cover. And just note that the orientations of this are all different. You have some vertical, some horizontal. So some may work better than others based on your orientation of your page. Now your menu cover is more portrait, so you might want to kind of keep that in mind. And if there's something that hits you, say if you really like, a certain image that you want to download and try, and I would definitely try a few. That's usually what designers do. We don't just stick with one and that's it. Experiment, have fun with it, see what you can come up with. Let's say you wanted to do, for my beach one, this image, just click one time on it and then you can click free download, and you can download different sizes here. I would stick to the second or third option here, and then you download it to your computer and save it. I already kind of downloaded an image for mine, so I'm kind of like going to get started here a little bit sooner with all of my pictures. I'm going to do one that kind of bleeds off of all four sides. So I'm going to take my rectangle frame tool that I showed you earlier, what that does, and I'm going to draw a big box kind of meeting up at all four corners of my bleed. Then I'm going to take the selection tool and select it. So I'm selecting that box, and then I'm going to do a Command D. And Command D is once I kind of find my image and download it on my computer, this is where I'm going to find that image to place in there. Now I already kind of picked one, so I'm going to place that one in here. Now it's placing really big because it's a large high-res image. So I'm going to go up to Object, Fitting, Fill Frame Proportionally. And that's going to fit it in here. Now it's a full bleed. And this is what's nice for covers. If you want to do a full bleed with some of your images, it's a nice way to go about it. You can always do different things to this, which I'll show you in a second, that will make it look, you know, more easy to read if you have busy elements going on in the background. Okay, so you guys are in your assets folder, you're going to get in a native Illustrator file of your logo that you're going to need to place in here. The logo typically, you know, you can go ahead and place it from here into InDesign. So I'm going to go File, Place, find my asset folder here. And here is my logo. So it's the AI logo. You don't want the logo to be too big. You want it to be kind of well balanced. So I'm going to go ahead and scale this down. Now you can do it the way that I just showed you here, or you can scale it using the scale tool, just like I showed you earlier. Oops, just make sure I just showed you something. Make sure it's proportionate. So the X and the Y coordinates need to be the same. Now the only problem with this is it's hard to read over top because the contrast is the same. If I wanted to just center this, say not even fill my area like we fill frame proportionally, if I just wanted to center this, I can go ahead and say center, and it's going to center with my blue bounding box. Just make sure it's aligned so it's not off center in any way. I'm going to pull this down. You can try the logo down below. Try it in different areas of your image if it's going to work better here. If you need to, you can always go ahead in Illustrator and open up, and if you're familiar with Illustrator, this might be something that you might want to do. Open up Illustrator. If you need to save out the logo in a certain different color, don't change the logo in any way, design-wise. All you need to do is change the color. So for instance, say if I wanted to make this all white, I could just make it all white, and I'm going to save as, and I'm going to name this as the white version here in my bistro. And this is just, you know, you can use the logo in this way if you have a very dark, busy background. You can use it in this way. So let me show you here real quick. So I'm going to go back to my InDesign, draw out my rectangle frame tool, Command D, or I can do File, Place, completely up to you. And here's my white variation. And you can use the arrows on your keyboard if you want to shift it up, down, whatever you want to do. But you can see here that, you know, it's easier to read because it has better contrast. And that's key. You don't want a logo to be hard to read or else it fails. It fails in its overall message to, like, obviously you can't see it, so not readable. Okay, so we have the logo on there. It doesn't have to be super big. You know, it can even be smaller than that, depending on what position that you want it. That's where it's at. I want to show you something really quickly before I move on to the other stuff. See how I have all these lines and margins that I see right now, and it kind of gets in the way of what this is actually really going to look like. So if you go to your toolbar and you go at the very bottom, very bottom, it says there's like a little icon. It looks like a layout. If you click and hold that click, you'll see different views. So you have your normal, preview, bleed, slug, presentation. Go ahead and click preview. Now, based on your preferences, there's InDesign preferences. Your background color will either be light or dark. Mine's gray because I picked that. But you'll see all the lines disappear. So it's a nice way to see what your menu will actually look like when it's ready to go to print. If you go to InDesign Preferences and you go to General and go to Interface, this is where you can change the color of the background. So if I wanted it darker or lighter, I can choose that. That's kind of how you would change the background there. I'm going to go back to normal view because I like to see those guidelines in order to align things. Okay, so in that presets folder, let's go ahead and hide this so we can go back to that presets folder. A lot of things in the way here. You have a file, a Word file named cover text and it's a Word file. Go ahead and open that up. And this is everything that needs to be on your cover. The logo, you don't obviously have to copy that, but you do have to have the tagline and all of this other information. So go ahead and select that. You can go to Edit Copy or Command C, which is your shortcut key. Go back to your InDesign. I'm just going to share my desktop so you can see here. Take your type tool, drag out a box with your type tool selected, and then do a Command V or a File, Edit, Paste. Command V is the shortcut for paste. This is going to paste your copy in here. And mine's really hard to read because it's on this really busy background. So what we're going to do is we're going to make this bigger, more bold. So go ahead and bring up your character type box. And this is where you can play around with type. Now choose a font that's going to go with your theme. You know, obviously you don't want to use a font that's going to look completely opposite. You don't want a font that's going to be hard to read when used smaller either. So really kind of investigate which one you think is appropriate for the brand, readable, and works well overall. Now for this, I have my tagline here. I'm going to go ahead and select my tagline because I want it kind of closer, or I want it separate of all of this information. So I'm going to go ahead and select it with my type tool, and I'm going to go up to Edit, Copy, or Command C, and I'm going to hit Delete. And what that does is it puts it in your clipboard. So it's imaginary, you can't see it. Draw another type box out, and then hit Command V to paste that in there. What that's going to do is create its own box, so you can kind of move this around on its own and have two separate boxes to play around with. Because I want different type treatment for this. Now the body copy, the contact information, when you think about a menu cover, you're holding it how many inches from your face, right? Like 8 or 9, 10 inches from your face. So the copy shouldn't be huge, point size wise. But it shouldn't be too small either. Think about different scenarios that when you're in a restaurant that you have different lighting. Some are very dim, especially the first Maxwell's. It might be very, very dim at night. So you don't want to go too small where the viewer is not going to be able to read the information. So a good balance is something that to be mindful of. I would say between 12 and 14 point type is always good, depending on the typeface that you're using. Yep, good. This is 16, actually. This isn't too bad. And it really depends on the typeface that you're using. Here's 14, and then here's 18. Yeah, I would stick in between those point sizes. The tagline can be treated a little differently because it's part of the headline. It's kind of different than the contact information. That can be larger. That can even be treated differently in a different typeface. That can even be in a different area of your contact information. It's almost like you want to read. It's all about hierarchy. What do you want to read first? Where do you want the viewer to look at? What information do you want the viewer to look at first, second, third? And that's, as designers, that's pretty much our job, is to visually allow the viewer to view a piece in a way that's easy to follow and read. So if everything has emphasis, the viewer's not going to know where to look first, right? So I think what the focus for my overall hierarchy in this menu cover would be the image. The image draws you in first, and then you see the logo. That's second, and then the tagline would be third. So with that being said, I need to make this a little bit bigger because it's in competition with my other contact information. I would say those two kind of go hand in hand though, but just a better hierarchy, I think, making that bigger would be best. So let's go ahead and make this bigger. If you bring up your paragraph panel, which is also under your type and tables menu bar, Go ahead and bring up your paragraph. This will allow you to align your copy. So let's say you want it to be centered. This is your second button here. You can center your copy there. I'm gonna make this a lot bigger. And then I'm gonna give it a different typeface. If you want to, you can go online and look at different typefaces if you don't have what you want on your computer that's you think is appropriate for it. You can check out different websites that have fonts that you can play around with. I think it's kind of fun to look at different fonts and see what's out there too. I have a bunch of stuff on my computer, so I'm just going to go ahead and see what I have going on here. Now, I don't want anything to kind of compete with my logo, so I don't want the tagline to be too big, but I want it to be readable and larger than my contact information. Okay, somebody's suggesting something. Yeah, if you have any suggestions, definitely take a look. All right, I just might have to pick something here because I had one in mind and then I lost it. Yep, you don't want to go over 3 fonts. Do you know why that is? I'm going to use this one, I think. Why would you not use more than 3 fonts? It's too busy. Yeah, it's a disconnect, right? I'm going to go ahead and center this information. Yep, it's too busy. Okay, now I'm going to align this copy down below. Now I'm keeping in mind the overall grid. So I have a hierarchical order here. And now I have a grid. Now the grid is kind of 1/3. I have the image pretty much taking up most of my layout, but I have the copy kind of taking up 1/3 of it. So that's a great way to do it. You don't want things too spread out. You want to kind of bring things together. It's all about proximity too. You don't want things to be too spread out because then it's too disconnected. You want things to kind of read together. You can have tagline closer to the logo. That's fine if it works. You can have it closer to the contact information, but don't have it too close. Have some space in between. Don't have the copy too far down. You want to kind of at least have it aligned on the margin. Same with the logo up here, the margin on the top. I have some space in between my contact information and my tagline. I can probably make this all capital too. Great by the sea, kind of cool. Now the only thing is it's definitely too hard to read still, right? I have some issues here. Yep. So there's a trick that I can show you if you're having that same issue. There is a really cool tool in here, the gradient feather tool that you can use. And what's neat about this is you can have a color kind of fading from light to dark or dark to light. So with that selected, actually let's go ahead and we can actually select this. Hold on, let me go back to my normal view. Undo. You can actually select this and choose your filter tool and choose the effect here. And I just double clicked on it. And you can change the location and you can change up here the gradient. But what I was going to show you is a more controlled way to do it. And that's just creating, I'm going to create a regular rectangle here. And I'm going to fill it with, let's see, am I going to do white or dark? Let me try dark first. Black. And then I'm going to double click on that feather tool. I'm sorry, the gradient feather tool. And I'm going to try switching this so that the dark is on the bottom. So I'm going to do like a 90-degree angle. And I can play around with the darkness and the lightness here by just kind of pulling this over And you can make this the same color too within your design. It's completely up to you. Click OK when you're done. Now obviously my information here is hard to see, so I need to bring it forward because right now it's behind it. So I'm going to select, I'm going to move my rectangle tool out of the way. I'm going to take my selection tool and I'm going to shift select my tagline with my body copy. I'm going to go up to Object, Arrange, Bring to Front. Now this is kind of a layered effect here, so it's going to bring it in front of my black square before it was behind it. Now this will be a nice way to select my copy now and make it white. So I'm going to select it with my type tool, double click on my fill, and or I can do, you can either do it that way or I can bring up my actual swatches here and choose it in my swatches, which is being hidden behind my chat log here. Let's just bring up color. I think that'll be good. Select all and then just choose white. Now that black is really, really harsh, right? It's really harsh. So I can actually make this more transparent too. Let me show you how to do that. In my appearance panel, if you don't have that, go up to Window, and the appearance should be in here. Let's see, what is it under? I can't remember here. Maybe under View. I thought it was under here, but it looks like it's not. Hold on one second, guys. Oh, it's under Properties. That's why I couldn't see it. It's kind of connected with your Properties box. So Properties is here. That's why I couldn't see. I was looking for Appearance. It's under your Properties box. So it's in this panel. And with that selected, you're going to go to where it says Opacity, and you can dial that down if you don't want it to be full percentage. Another thing that you can do to make it more readable, and I would say be very subtle with this, is you could put a drop shadow on your copy. So you would select your copy, say for instance, and you could do this to your logo too. I'm going to select the tagline just to show you real quick and go up to Object, Effects, Drop Shadow. And you're going to see it before you're going to, if this is selected, the preview, you're going to see it applied with whatever selection's already defaulted. I would pull this back a little bit, the distance a little bit back, and then also the opacity down a little bit. Let's do like 50%. So I put 0.0625 by 50%. And that just gives it, and I could do it to this too, select your logo, do the same thing. That just gives it a nice, kind of like a, you know, a nice 3D type of look. Never stop shallow. What's that mean? Oh, drop shadow? Oh, yeah, drop shadows are okay sometimes. I wouldn't use it in like a lot of logo work, just because if you're creating a drop shadow for logos, it's not going to be as versatile when you're applying it to other things. As long as you're doing it subtly and for purposes of, you know, you don't want to have like a lot of drop shadows. But if, say, if you just need to add just an extra bit of contrast, that's okay. You know, it's okay to use it. You know, if it looks right for it and it's easier to read. You can change the dark. Say if you wanted to go more light with it, you can do more light instead of dark, and then you would just do vice versa, where this would be, you know, either, oh, and this is another thing I want to show you. Let me show you real quick. Go white. Say you wanted to use the colors in your picture to be with your text. So you could select your text. For some reason, this is getting all funky here. Hold on one second, guys. There we go. And with that selected with the type tool, go ahead and take your eyedropper tool, and you can actually eyedrop anything in your picture to create that same color. Now for this, I would take the drop shadow out. How would you do that? I have my low battery. I have to plug my computer in here, guys. Go back to either appearance, where it shows your drop shadow here, and you can delete it there. Or you can go the other way, which is just going back up to drop shadow and just unselect it here in your panel box. I would definitely take that off if you have a dark color like that, just because it makes it harder to read. And you can select any color within there. And that's nice because what it does is it unifies your overall design. Okay, let me go plug in here real quick. Hold on 1 second. All right, we're back at it. Does anybody have any questions about that? That would be like my first design example. Now, because we're running out of time, because I went on and on and on, I'm going to show you my second example that I have already. Yep, I mean, I showed you a lot of other details, stuff that you might not use, but hopefully you kind of got the gist. But here would be my second completely different concept. Notice how I took the tagline up. I'm using the color logo. I'm using a different background image. Whatever design that you decide to go with, you're going to keep it cohesive on the inside. So it's important to understand that, to choose wisely so that you're unifying the inside with the outside. So really kind of, I would do two different directions so that you have, you know, a nice variety to choose from and you're experimenting a little bit more with. Okay, now let's go back to your details within your assignment. Make sure we got all of this. So it looks like everything pretty much we have except for packaging. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now, and then we'll wrap it up. So you're going to package the file when you're finished. Be sure to include all images, fonts, and high-res PDF. Zip the package folder and name it this file name, and then you're going to turn in the zip file. So packaging is a way that you can include all your fonts and your images. So I won't have this image. Say if you send me your cover, I'm not going to have that image on my computer. I may not have one of your fonts on your computer that you use. So if you're only giving me your .indd file, your InDesign, this is the native file, if you're sending me that only, I'm going to say, listen, you need to zip your file because I can't, when I open it up, I'm not going to be able to see any images. Your fonts will be replaced by other fonts. It's going to look completely different. So you're going to go up to File. It's really easy. When you're ready, go up to File and choose Package. That's it. And when you choose Package, you can see a summary of everything in your document. You can click on fonts and see all the fonts that are included. If you have any issues with linked images, you can see it there. If not, you'll just see kind of all this other information. That's fine. You don't have to do anything. The only thing you need to do is click Package on the very lower right-hand corner, and it's going to bring up another preset here, box. This is where you can actually create your folder. You can name it assignment 1, your last name. Desktop is where I'm going to save mine. Just make sure copy fonts, copy links, update graphic links, and package. Everything is included. And then you're going to select high press quality or high quality print PDF in there. Everything else is included, and hit package. That's it. It might take a little while. Save. Go to your desktop or wherever you save this at. I have like a million folders open. Sorry, guys. Where is it? Oh, okay, here's my folder. So this is the folder it packaged it in. So it's going to look like a little blue folder. And it's, if you open it up, I want you guys to open this up. You're going to have, if you have the document open right now, it's going to show an IDML. Ignore that, that's fine. This is your InDesign file. This is your actual native file. Here's your high-res PDF. All your fonts included. These are all the fonts I used and all my links. So all my logo and any images that I use are in here. This is the PDF. Go ahead and open up your PDF. Just double click on it before you zip it, just to make sure it looks good, everything looks fine. You're gonna look at both of your pages. I only have one page, so you're gonna look at both of your menus. Everything looks good, then that's fine. Once you're ready to zip it, click out of there. Once everything looks good. Get the spinning wheel of death here, hold on. Click out of there. Zipping, so there's two ways you can do this. You can either hold down the control click on a Mac and compress right here. Or you can select the folder and go up here, file, compress. It's the same thing, just two different ways. It's going to create a zipped folder, and why we do this is because it'll upload, instead of uploading each individual piece and font and image, all you need to do is upload this zip folder. And this is what you'll submit. Keep this folder for yourself in your own little, you should have week 1, 2, 3, 4 folders for this class. Keep that in there, but submit your zipped folder for your final submission. Does that make sense? All right. Like I said, I went through some of this really fast, but go back to the recording once it's ready. You can rewind, fast forward, get to the spots that you need help with. And if you have any more issues along the way, let me know. And then also don't forget, I will be available Wednesday at the same time for 2 hours for the if I can think about it. The session that's open for you guys. It's not mandatory. Why am I blinking on this? Multi-session. I think it's because we reworded it so many times that I can't even remember. So multi-session, I will be Wednesday at the same time for 2 hours. Okay. So I'm excited to see what you guys come up with. Don't feel like you're stuck to any of the images in the folder for the cover. You can, like I said, go on Pixabay, just as long as it's a high-res, copyright-free image that's appropriate for your brand. I'm fine with that. The images that are in that folder can be used in your menu on the inside that are like the food images. That definitely can be used for that. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. We're a little bit over, so I'm going to wrap it up. Yeah, I hope you guys all enjoyed that. I know it's a lot of information. Don't feel overwhelmed, though, and reach out to me if you have any questions. Okay? You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll be seeing you on the discussions. Awesome sauce. All right, guys, have a great one.